You're listening to Reignite, a podcast about owning your mistakes. I'm MJ.
And I am Matt, a.k.a. Stormageddon.
And joining us for this episode is Lore Party's own Abu Zafar.
Hi, guys. I'm back.
Yay! Listeners might remember that Abu joined us last season. Abu is also a member of the Lore Party Network, and you do a lot of shows over there, right?
We do. We're up to 4 shows at this point.
Nice. We initially became friends with the Lore Party crew because of their Garrus Vicarian episode.
Still one of our best. So proud of that one. And MJ, you joined us for that one.
Not for Garrus Vicarian. I talked with you guys about love interests.
Oh, that's right. The Garrus episode was the one that you really liked. And that's how that's the reason we initially connected.
Right. That's how we became friends.
Yes, exactly. Garrus, bringing people together.
Yeah, he does. But why don't we remind listeners a little bit of what you do and what you've been up to lately?
Yeah, absolutely. So I just want to highlight 2 small things at the top, and I don't want to get to plug my own nonsense right at the top of the episode. But 2 really cool things that the Lore Party team has been up to that I want to highlight. One, in case you missed it, just last week we had Spider-Man himself, the voice of Spidey in the Spider-Man PlayStation 4 game and the new Miles Morales game, Yuri Lowenthal, on the show. And we're extremely proud of getting him on the show. And he's such a charming guy. Like, I can't put it into words. You just have to meet him. But even over a Zoom call, instantly charming. You're immediately like, I want to be this man's friend.
Aww.
And the conversation was great, and we're extremely proud of it. And he had a lot of great things to say. And you know, our network is very heavily focused more on story and lore rather than talking about things like gameplay or even things like voice acting, which Yuri does. And he knows his Spidey lore, and he brought that knowledge. So it was really cool to kind of get Spider-Man's perspective from the man who had to step in his shoes and really get inside Spidey's head and play him in 2 huge games. So that's one big win for us that I really want to highlight. And then the other big thing that we've been up to lately is we launched our 4th podcast a couple of months ago on the network called Gom Jabbar, and this is our Dune-focused podcast. I'm one of the hosts. I'm joined by a longtime Lore Party member, Leo, as my co-host. We're huge Dune fans. We're big geeks of the books. We have watched the 1984 film, and we're super stoked for the upcoming Denis Villeneuve film, starring Timothée Chalamet, Oscar Isaac, and a huge cast of characters and big Hollywood celebrities. So if you are at all interested in Dune, if you want to know more about what to expect with this upcoming film, we have spoiler-free episodes for you that'll help you step into the world of Dune for the first time and hopefully encourage you to read the books. And if you're like us and you've read all the books and the extended lore and the comics, we have deep dive episodes as well where we go, as usual on Lore Party, we go deep on the lore and universes and the themes that we find in Frank Herbert's frankly iconic sci-fi series. So those are the 2 big things I wanted to highlight that we're doing over on the Lore Party Network these days.
I gotta start listening to that.
You should.
I have never read the Dune books. I don't really know anything about them.
And that's perfectly okay. We have episodes tailored specifically towards you to get you into the universe and guide you in.
Yeah, that might be what I need to inspire me to read them finally.
Yeah.
Well, my friends say nice things about them.
Was Timothée Chalamet not enough to get you to read Dune? You're not a Timmy girl. That's okay.
The one thing I saw him in was Call Me by Your Name, and I hated that movie.
Really? I have friends who absolutely loved it. This is getting tangential, but yeah.
Yeah. we can talk about queer representation in film another time.
Yes, but I do want to quickly say, as someone who has listened to the Yuri episode, it was phenomenal, and he is one of my favorite voice actors to begin with, even before doing Spidey and having since done Spidey, and so I highly recommend that people check that out. And then, I'm not a Dune fan, but I know that you also did the Winds Howling podcast, which was a Witcher show. It was to catch people up on lore and get ready for the Witcher TV show, which I did watch, and I did listen to those episodes. And that's a phenomenal, progressing podcast going with a property. And so I'm excited to hear the Dune podcast, even not as a Dune fan, because you had done such a good job on Winds Howling. And so
thank you.
I assume you have the same kind of detail-oriented deep dive nonsense that was in that show.
For sure. That's our brand. I like to think that Lore Party's entire brand at this point is just overthinking it. That's what we did.
Yeah, that sounds about right. But this is not a podcast about overthinking it, or is it? But let's get an update on your choices. Since we last spoke, some major choices in Mass Effect 2 happened. And the first one I want to talk about is when you get Legion and do Legion's loyalty mission to go after the Geth heretics. Do you, in your ideal playthrough, kill or rewrite the Geth?
I got to rewrite them every time. I cannot. I have a soft spot for Legion in particular, but the Geth in general, like, to me, their story is extremely interesting when it comes to how they sort of evolved from very rudimentary artificial intelligence to being sentient beings who wanted their freedom effectively. And to me, rewriting the Geth, always seems like the right choice to make. But I know there's a gray area there as well. What about you guys?
So I believe I killed them, and
Yes, you did.
MJ rewrote them.
Yes.
And I still don't know if my answer was the right answer. I still conflicted on that choice to this day.
Yeah.
I think you can argue your way around no matter what. I chose to rewrite them because when they gave me the statistics, there was like slightly more percentage towards rewriting. I was like, great, majority rules. I shouldn't be making this choice.
Yeah, legit. You're not wrong. Shepard just tends to become the ruler of everything in those situations, and why?
You're impartial. Okay, but no, that's not how this works.
The other major choice in ME2 was, of course, the collector base, and whether you give it to the elusive man or destroy it. So which was your choice?
I don't remember, actually. It's been a while since I've played all the way through, but I believe, based off of my own instincts and what I remember playing about the elusive man, I probably destroyed it. I spent most of my experience just not trusting that man with anything and being as rude as possible as I could be. And so I suspect that, I don't remember my choice exactly, but I suspect I destroyed the base just to keep it out of his hands, even out of spite.
I'm waiting for the day that somebody says, oh no, I gave it to the elusive man.
Right? Because it just hasn't happened. Everyone's just like, even our like full Renegade playthrough guests are like, fuck that guy. I ain't giving him shit.
Yeah.
Which is always entertaining. And then last but not least, who did you fall for in Mass Effect 2?
Oh, gosh. I think you guys always dog me for having the most vanilla choices when it comes to romances. I think
you do that to yourself, my friend.
That's fair.
Yes, I have to bear responsibility for that. I think in Mass Effect 2, I think I went with another pretty vanilla choice and went with Liara. Because she was, at this point, she's just like, I'm sorry, isn't she no, she's not the Shadow Broker by this point. That's Mass Effect 3.
No, that's Mass Effect 2.
That is 2.
She does become Shadow Broker in 2, and you do have the option to rekindle that relationship in 2. So the question is, I guess, do you continue your relationship from 1 with her, or did you fall for someone new?
I think I continued. I think I stuck with
Okay.
the same person through my entire original, at least my original Mass Effect playthrough. I think it was always Liara from the start.
I don't know why I thought that you were into Miranda.
I was definitely, I wasn't not into Miranda. To be clear, I was a teenage, I was a straight teenage boy playing these games. I was into,
that's fair.
Certain aspects of Miranda, but I think I felt too loyal to Liara, especially after spending Mass Effect 1 with her.
That's fair.
And so I continued that,
fair.
and I believe I carried that all the way through the series.
I think I did that my first ideal playthrough also, my femship that I'm recreating on the PC version. I was just Liara straight through line as femship. So I can respect that. Keeping it same is okay. Playing it safe, I get it.
Yeah. I just felt guilty. I just felt like, I can't change now, right? Like I'm already committed, so.
Yeah, fair.
You can always change relationships. Can always happen at the drop of a hat.
Somebody should have told 16-year-old Abu that then.
I guess
It
so.
would have saved me a lot of pain in my early 20s.
things I say to invoke side-eye from my husband.
So before we get into the main chunk of the episode, I did want to mention, we recorded the last episode with John Lestrange before the announcement of the Legendary Edition, even though it was aired after we had it banked already. So I did want to take a moment to talk about the Legendary Edition, something that MJ and I refused to believe was real until it was real. And now it's coming. And for one, that's exciting. For those who don't know, BioWare announced on N7 Day that the Legendary Edition of the Mass Effect trilogy is coming out in spring of 2021. It is going to be a remaster/remake ? Of the original trilogy, including all DLC, all collector edition items, all specialty download items, everything included. They've been a little tight-lipped still on what those changes are, besides updating the graphics and the gameplay to some degree. And so I thought it might just be fun, especially as some of the biggest Mass Effect nerds we know, to talk a little bit about maybe just briefly the hopes and dreams we have. I'll go first because I'll be brief. If anyone has not been paying attention this entire time, they've been listening to this podcast, the first thing I will always yell about is please make Mass Effect gayer. Just gayer across the board.
It's easy to do.
It's very easy to do. And especially since they've hinted at new content, so they are obviously going to be in touch with the voice actors. They are probably going to bring them back to do some new stuff. My big one is, as Male Shepherd, please let me romance Thane. There's no reason not to, because he treats you the same way he treats FemShep, more or less. There's almost no difference between that relationship other than it gets sexy time for female Shepherd sometimes. And then the other thing I'll say briefly is please update the combat engine. Make Mass Effect 3's combat engine the same combat whole way through. I don't think it'll hurt the previous games to put that in. I think it just makes sense because playing Mass Effect 1 is a chore for anyone who's played it recently. Especially if you're coming to it for the first time. So those are my two big hopes and dreams. No big deal.
Just the usual. I mean, I agree. My main gripe is that Caden is unavailable to Male Shep in Mass Effect 1 and available to him in Mass Effect 3. So if you're going to be doing this, make him available in 1 as well. Also, please, at least one woman who loves woman relationship in Mass Effect 2. Provide at least one of each option. At least.
Yeah, I don't know, guys.
The bar is so low.
We sort of talked about this on Discord when I posted about the remaster on N7 Day, and I was pretty stoked about it, and I know you two were a little more hesitant. My bar is much, much lower. I just I don't have a PC, so I can't play the games on a gaming PC, and the only consoles I have are a Switch and a PlayStation 4. And I just want to be able to play the trilogy and all its DLCs on a modern console on the nice TV that the roomie and I have in the living room. That is the lowest bar, and it would be very difficult for BioWare to let me down.
That's true.
It would be great if there were more fundamental changes to the game, and I agree with the two of you, changing up characters, making Caden's romance consistent throughout the series. That sort of thing definitely needs to happen. I don't know that BioWare is spending the resources to make that happen.
Yeah, that's the thing. That's why I won't let myself get too hype about it.
Yeah.
I just don't want to get my hopes up and then be disappointed. Am I going to be happy no matter what? Probably. But will I be happier one way? Yes.
Certainly, yeah.
Yeah, I agree. And I think the big thing of small gripes, I really hope it comes to the Switch. Right now there's no plan for a Switch version. And I know that multi-platform games run poorly on the Switch comparatively, or tend to have lower graphics, or run at only 30 frames per second. But if I'm going to get a Mass Effect trilogy that's pretty close to the previous version with maybe a little bit fancier graphics and not much other changes, I want it to be portable. That's the ideal dream, because I've had it on stationary consoles. So for it to be portable would be great.
Totally. Don't even give me the high definition graphics.
Right.
It's a 10-year-old game, right? It can run on the Switch.
Right.
Just make it run on the Switch for me. That's all I'm asking.
Well, I mean, and I think that was the thing that me and MJ yelled about a lot before, is that like this game is not hard on hardware. Even the third game, which is the prettiest of them, still isn't that hard on hardware and could easily run on the Switch as a direct port. But that said, I'm hoping because they're waiting till spring of next year instead of the rumored and 7-day release this year, that they are going to at least improve some mechanical things outside of just porting it. Because again, the gameplay in 1 just doesn't live up to 2 and 3.
Totally.
But we'll see. I think that we probably won't know more about this till probably the middle of Q1, probably around February of next year. They'll start releasing videos and stuff. I'm hoping it comes out on the earlier side of the spring, but realistically, I know it's probably going to come out closer to the end of spring, summer. I doubt it's going to come out on time, but we'll see. Who knows? It's hard to gauge. They had a cinematic trailer, so it's hard to gauge how far along we are.
Yeah. Please, BioWare, give me something to do while I wait for that vaccine.
Right? Exactly.
Like, get me through spring 2021.
But enough about the Legendary Edition. Of course, if you have questions, concerns, or want us to talk at length about the kinds of things we want from the Legendary Edition, let us know via Twitter, via email, via wherever, because it is a thing that we will definitely talk about again during the course of this season as it goes. But I think now is a great time for us to talk about what we're here to do today. How about we have a summary?
Only because you asked so nicely.
Sweet.
This is a mission in 2 parts. First, we are off to Tachanka to pull 9th Platoon out of the fire. Along the way, our squad speculates about what the platoon is even doing on Tachanka. When we finally find the Primarch's son, we discover that his bad call resulted in the loss of both lives and the trust of his men. It turns out the platoon was meant to disarm a bomb, now in the possession of a Cerberus cell. If that weren't bad enough, the bomb was planted by the Turians generations prior to the Reaper War as a contingency should the Krogan rise up again. Shepard convinces Tarkin to complete the mission despite their decreased numbers. The mission is straightforward and ends with the Primarch's son making a sacrifice to guarantee Shepard's victory.
So, as we often do, and remembering in the right place for a change, because MJ actually made a note, because I never make notes. Abu, why did you pick this mission?
Well, guys, to be totally transparent with both you and the listeners, I don't remember picking this mission. You messaged me last week and you were like, hey, when are you free to record? And my reaction was, what? So I must have picked this months ago, or time has no meaning anymore. But thinking back and like as I was sort of refreshing my memory about this mission and prepping for the recording tonight, I think I probably picked this mission because of the bomb on Tuchanka and what that represented for the history of the Krogan and the Turians, and that really delicate balance of between their relationship and how it could tip one way or the other, and who was justified in doing what, right? Like there's the big question in this pair of missions is A, why is there a bomb there? And B, are the Turians justified in placing a bomb there? And I thought that was the most interesting part of this mission to me. And obviously the 9th Platoon and Tarkin and the Primarch's son being involved, that was all sort of eye candy, but the larger picture of it all was the most interesting part to me. So I was pretty excited to discuss that.
That was a pretty good answer for a guy who couldn't remember that he agreed to do the episode in the first place.
Off the dome.
I thought you were going to say, honestly, I wanted to pick a different mission, but somebody else had taken it. And the answer was going to be Case Aiken, because that happened twice now.
I mean, honestly, I probably wanted to do the genophage cure, but someone probably got to that before I did.
Yes,
so I
correct.
went with this
Yes,
one.
that was Case Aiken.
Yeah, that was Case.
Case Aiken strikes again.
It is the best mission probably in the entire series, but we'll get to that. But first, before we dive into the meat of this mission, as always, we should chat about our check-ins.
Cool. This time, we kind of broke up the check-ins depending on what we wanted to talk about to see if there was any crossover and to try and maybe make it go faster. Who knows? It probably won't.
Probably not.
Anyway, let's talk about this conversation we had with Anderson.
Yeah. I like that every time you bring up Keely Sanders, his face just kind of lights up. He has this kind of like...
He softens.
It's so great.
It's so sweet. when you first get him on the call, he's like, "You're calling me to tell me that you've defeated all the Reapers and we're done, right?" Oh, you're such a dad.
Yeah, right? It's such a dad joke. Like, hey there, champ. We can all go home, right?
Ugh, my dad. And he talks about Kaylee, and he goes, "She and I were more than close." And I'm just like, I just want you to have a happy ending.
I know, right?
I want you to retire with your girlfriend.
Where's my
new
Anderson
mom.
novel? Where's my Anderson post ME3 novel? Because I know there's one pre ME3, but I want my post ME3 novel.
It was just a nice little conversation, reminding you what's going on Earth. He's organizing on the ground rather than connecting with other cities or anything like that.
Right.
And it's hard and it's scary, and I'm scared for him.
Yeah, I think that it's weird, right? I think there's some dissonance, and you're meant to feel this, between Earth and what you're doing, because it does feel like nothing's happening on Earth, but that's obviously not the case. Things are being destroyed daily, minute to minute. But the thing that we talked about with James in the early part of this season is like, but you don't feel it when you're on the Citadel or when you're on the Normandy, because you're displaced from it, especially as the player, because even if Shepard's in their cabin watching the news all the time, you as the player are not consuming that, even if that's happening like off screen or between scenes. And so I think that it's very easy to joke and feel jovial, especially when we're seeing Admiral Datterson. But I think that dissonance is intentional by BioWare. And if it wasn't, it still reads through regardless.
Let's talk about Joker.
Yes, let's. I think it's no secret that I love his like post-mission nonsense. And I feel like they fine-tuned his quips in this game. And of course he has something to say about the Rachni Queen and your choice to help her again and reassure him that it's not going to happen again. And he says, yeah, right. Until the next time the Reapers sing a sour yellow note of whatever. Just kind of dismissive of the whole thing. Like, what is this? Like, crazy shit happens daily. I don't even know anymore.
I just fly the ship.
I find it really funny that that's the note that you made, or at least the thing that you remembered, because I know you don't make notes. Because my notes were about Joker's comments about Grunt and our little tank baby's all grown up. Every time he incinerates someone and does that little laugh, he'll think of you. Like, Joker understands that he's my son.
Yeah, he gets it. He knows.
So those were my notes about that.
Yeah.
I didn't put this in the outline because I just want to allude to it really briefly. We've talked so much about how the way they do the squad mates and the other characters on the ship make it feel so much more lifelike. And they continue to do that by having, for example, Garrus sitting with Private Copeland in the lounge, and Private Copeland just being like, "Wow, sir, you've done so much."
Yes.
And Garrus just being like, "Yeah, I guess we did."
It's a fun moment. Like, we cracked jokes early on about what that room is even for, because there was like a smoke machine on and no one was in there. But at least they were hanging out in the lounge. I think that's funny. Also, to know the kind of dork that Garrus is, and then to watch him be quote unquote cool for this other human soldier. It's like,
who are you kidding? I know that you're a giant nerd. What the fuck are you doing right now?
Exactly.
And he also says, similarly to Joker, siding with the giant spiders again.
Yeah. Which
so good.
is a very good line.
Should I talk about the Liara cutscenes I had, or?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay, cool. I had 2 Liara cutscenes. I'm just going to talk about them one after the other. The first one is in her office, her room, and she is completely hung up on how long it's going to take this cycle to end. And she's just like, "I'm only 109. It's like, okay, calm down.
We need to take a minute.
She's having an existential crisis, though. She's being faced with her mortality. When you're an Asari who lives for 1,000 years, at the age 109, you don't think about how you're gonna die any day.
No, that's true.
And, this poor girl. I comfort her with our friendship. But, everything I say to Liara feels like it could almost be flirty. I'm like, please stop doing this. Please. I want to be her friend. I just want to be friends.
Yeah.
Please stop making me flirt.
There are moments that they write Liara like Shepard's best friend, and then there are tons of moments where they don't. And because Liara is romanceable as both male and female Shepard, it's very much mixed signals, but you don't know that they actually are, because there are some hard mechanics behind some of them, but it is definitely unclear. I don't know what triggers this cutscene. I'm guessing it's just timing and conversations, but that while I do love the way, we've talked about this a bunch, how they've built out the world on the Normandy this time around, it is unclear when you trigger certain things, whereas in previous games it was big story mission, tons of conversations, big story mission, tons of conversations in the first two games. In this game it seems less consistent, which is good. I want that to feel more natural and random, but when doing a podcast like this, it's hard to predict or line up.
You know what it is? In previous games, it went based on story-related missions. If you completed a story-related mission, you came back, that's when you could progress the conversation. But if you just visited a planet and came back, you wouldn't get that progression. Now, no matter like what you do, if you leave the Normandy and come back, there is a progression. So it could just be that I left the Normandy more times than you.
Yep. If you went, well, you did, because as I recall, I think you went to the Citadel at one time where I did not, and so that would be an extra trip.
I also did that this time around too, because I had to turn in some missions.
I think I might have gone also and turned in some stuff, though I can't recall. But yeah, I think that's why we're out of sync, which is fine. I think at this point we'll just have to start taking notes this way. I think putting down the stuff that happens in our check-ins and then just, calibrating, as it were, when we talk on the pod.
Calibrations. I'm going to hold off talking about the second one until you have it too, because I think it's important.
Okay.
So I'm just going to skip it.
Okay. Do you want to talk about your Adams note, Adams's request?
Yeah, there were a couple of Adams things. I walked in on him and Karen talking, and he was talking about how he, let everyone down by not joining us in Mass Effect 2. And Karen's like, you were one of the bravest men I've ever met. And I am like,
aww.
Space Mom. Am I going to get a new dad, too? Are both of my parents going to have new partners? What is happening? I ship it. I'm all about it. Karen and Adams go really well together. But he just felt so sad. And he was just like, he wasn't there for us, and that hurt him. And I'm just like, no, you did your best, buddy. But also, apparently, they need a new pipe down in engineering, and I had to actually go down to engineering to be told, hey, could you get us this new pipe? Why? That could have been an email. That could have been a text message.
Right.
You could have pinged me while I was walking through the ship. I did not have to come down and visit you.
Yeah.
That was it. I just wanted to complain about that.
That's a problem. Like when we complain about certain things in old Star Trek or old Star Wars, it's like creating a future based on current modern tech and modern solutions. You won't always think of those things. Like when this game was made, cell phones were pretty pervasive, but not in the same way that smartphones are now. And so yes, it wouldn't make sense. Like you're walking around with an Omni tool at all times. Why wouldn't they just ping you? But mechanics, I don't know, something, gameplay limitations.
I think I got an email from him being like, hey, come down and see me in engineering. Why didn't you just put it in the email?
Yeah, I don't know.
This meeting could have been an email.
Right. Matt's over here trying to really read into it, but I think he's just that coworker.
Oh, it could be. You might not be wrong.
Oh, Adams.
Adams.
And that's really it for important things to talk about. I'm trying to cut down on the things.
That's fair. I mean, bless Commander Nikki, who tweeted at us saying the check-ins are her favorite part, which bless you. But I don't know that that's true for everyone.
It distressed me a great deal. It was 50 minutes on check-ins. I'm like, oh God, why? I know why. It's because John.
Yeah, that's true. He's wordy.
He's glaring at me right now. You said this yourself, sitting next to me on that couch. Don't you give me that look.
I'm going to leave this in the episode. I swear to God.
Yeah.
Anyway, I think now is a good time to move on to the main mission at hand here. So we have to meet with Primarch Victus and find out that, apparently his son's on Tachanka already and shit's gone down. But we can't know why or, why we have to be there or what happened or literally anything until we go there. Do we even find out it's his son before we go down?
Yes, he tells us.
Okay.
He tells us that his son Tarkin is in charge of 9th Platoon.
Okay.
So I'm playing on my Xbox 360. Mm-hmm. So every time I do something... No, not Xbox 360. I'm sorry. I'm playing on my Xbox One. Mm-hmm. Every time I do a mission that's considered part of Disc 2, my Xbox says, hey, insert Disc 2. And I look at it and I say, no. And then it says, very well, and then continues.
That's really funny.
It's very annoying because every moment I think I'm going to have to get up, but then it goes, just kidding. You don't need it.
Amazing.
It's very annoying. I took Garrus and Edie for both missions.
Okay. I believe I took Garrus and James on this mission because obviously Turian relations, I'm going to bring Garrus.
Right.
Yeah.
It just makes sense.
Yep.
I think we'd be hard-pressed to find someone who didn't bring Garrus with them on this mission.
Yep.
Bring Garrus all the time.
True.
And then
everywhere.
James, just because I've fallen in love with that dorky himbo, I have to bring him everywhere.
It's a shame that there is no James romance.
It bums me out a little bit. Yeah, just to live it out with fantasy Freddie Prinze Jr. and Dragon Age Inquisition instead.
Yep.
Because he is
the only way you can do it.
Really horny in that game.
That is true. I did that romance. It was a good romance. Back on track.
Yes.
It's still weird, but really cool to see Edie in the field because her voice takes on new clarity whenever you're asking for information before you land. And Shepard has someone to look at now.
Yes, instead of just kind of staring off as an ever-present voice speaks through the speakers of the Kodiak.
Garrus makes a whole speech about how nepotism is frowned upon in Turian culture, so that bodes real well.
Yeah, clearly he has some thoughts and opinions on the whole situation. And while he may not know about the specific mission, has probably interacted with Tarkin and Primarch Victus before outside of this.
Do we think it was nepotism, though? Do we think Victus... Is that confirmed?
It's not straight out confirmed. Like, Victus has never once said, yes, I definitely just promoted him because he's my son. It's inferred by Garrus, who says, there's a reason why you don't promote your family.
That makes sense.
Garrus suspects that that's what's going on.
Right,
basically.
right. And it's also sort of confirmed once we meet Lieutenant Victus and
Yeah.
realize he's sort of incompetent, or at the very least, unsure of himself.
I would say unsure.
Yeah, because he doesn't seem unintelligent, but he definitely seems easily overwhelmed and not confident in his ability.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, he made a bad call. He thought it would be better for them to go one way, but it reduced their ability to maneuver, and it was a bad call. And shit like that happens. It doesn't mean necessarily that you're bad at your job. It just means that you misread the situation. It's how you handle it from there that makes you a leader.
Totally.
Yeah.
And that's sort of the lesson that Shepard teaches Lieutenant Victus in a very quick 5 minutes.
Yeah. Basically. Yeah, there's really not a lot to say about the actual mission itself from landing to getting to Victus, because not a lot happens except for some really overdramatic harvesters.
Yes.
God, why do they have to blow up like that?
It's too much.
It's just so overdramatic. They just want attention so badly.
It's a cry for help.
It is a cry for help. You're absolutely right, Abu. The combat here is pretty straightforward for this first part of the mission. The layout is pretty standard, rocky terrain, windy planet. We've fought on Tachanka before, and it feels like Tachanka. You see a bunch of dead Turians, lots of yelling with Victus as you're trying to get to him while he's pinned down.
He is very distressed.
Yeah, and it is a distressing scene, especially considering Tachanka, as we know just from our brief time in the second game on the planet, is really desolate and like very windy, lots of dust in the air, like can't really see very far. So the frenetic nature of the planet itself adds to the frenetic nature of a mission like this.
Some really great quotes from my squad. Garrus saying things like secret Turian missions on Tachanka are especially odd. I have Edie saying, picking up auditory evidence of conflict.
Thanks, Edie.
Astute.
You gonna tell me the water's wet next? Like,
it's just the way that she says certain things, not like, I hear fighting up ahead.
James did a lot of cursing, as he tends to do.
As he do.
And also was just like, why? Like, also, even James, our lovable himbo, was like, this is strange. This is weird. Why are the Turians here? And why don't we know anything? Which I think is speaking to his, when he led his platoon and when he was in charge of important missions, like he recognizes when something's shut down informationally because something's up. And even he can tell, which I think is an important dichotomy to like Garrus, who is an overthinker. We were talking about Lord Party overthinkers before. Garrus is definitely one of them. Like he overanalyzes everything. That's his MO. But for James to recognize it, I think shows that it really is fishy and fairly obvious that it's fishy.
Yeah, the game is not subtle. It's not subtle enough for even James to totally miss it. This mission goes out of its way to be like, this is weird. Victus isn't telling you what's up. Why are Turians here? Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. So it's pretty clear that like a big reveal is coming once we finally make contact with Lieutenant Victus and his squad.
On our way, all of the soldiers we encounter are like pissed as all hell at Victus.
Yeah.
Just like, he's gonna pay for this. I'm like, okay, calm down.
Let's not get out of hand.
Just chill. So when we finally get to Victus, he tells us that there's a bomb on the planet and Cerberus has control over it. And we have this moment where we have to be like, okay, so we're going to go handle that, right? And Victus is like, all of my men are dead, except for these 5. Like, what do you want? I would like to not start a war, please. Let's go take care of that bomb. That'd be great. But yeah, when I appealed to his honor, or I told him to appeal to the honor of his squad, he then delivered a speech and he inspired them to like go for it. So he's actually a really good speaker. So maybe that's one of the reasons he was promoted.
It makes sense that his men would be hesitant, even if they have all the information, which the squad may not even. I know, obviously, Lieutenant Victus does, but the squad may not. It's hard to want to keep going at the risk of your own life, especially considering a lot of Turians don't think highly of Krogan still to this point. It's a conflict point up until now. And so, the fact that Victus is able to rally them is really important. And I mean, then again, Shepard has that effect on people, right? Like there are often conversations where Shepard goes, you can do it. And then whoever the NPC is goes, I can do it.
I can do it. You're right. Why did I doubt myself before? Thank you, random human.
Yeah.
Maybe Daddy Victus should have been more supporting. Like,
agree.
Yeah.
Poor Lieutenant Victus over here is like unsure of himself. And did either of you select the Renegade option, or did you both ask him to appeal to their honor?
I did appeal to honor.
Same.
Because the Renegade option is hilarious, and it's actually kind of cheesy and bad.
It was kick them in the ass.
Yeah, the Renegade option, the selection text is, well, kick them in the ass, like blah, blah, blah. And then Victus turns to his squad, and he's just like, he puts on like a real tough guy act. And he does this whole bit where he's like, hey, all right, line up. We're getting on the next dropship out of here. And then, like one of the squad members replies and says, no, why would we? Like, what are we doing here? We're not going to follow your orders. And Victus is just like, well, then you can face a court-martial. We're Turians and we get the job done. We're getting on the next dropship in 5. And then they're like, okay, he's serious, I guess. So that option I had a harder time believing. I was like, come on.
Yeah.
That is not the way to like appeal to your squad at this moment. So I felt that the writing there was a little weak, but it sounds like the Paragon option was probably the intended option here.
Probably. Like, he delivers a very impassioned speech about how important it is to fulfill your duties and, complete your responsibilities.
Yeah, totally. Instead of don't get court-martialed.
After we rescue Tarkin and his platoon and we return to the ship, I tried to talk to the Primarch again to see if he would tell me now. And guess what? He doesn't.
Nope.
At this point, this is absurd. There's a bomb involved.
Exactly. Like, come on.
And Shepard even here tries to like appeal to Primarch Victus. Like Shepard's like, I trust you. I need you to trust me. Like this needs to be a two-way lane. And Primarch Victus is like, nope, sorry, classified.
He just stonewalls you every chance he gets. And it's frustrating because we are supposed to be forming this alliance. We are supposed to be working together. And if you can't trust me with this information, then why are you even here?
Yeah.
Yep. And if you talk to Rex after this, Rex asks you what's going on Tuchanka.
Nothing.
And your option is to like kind of put your tail between your legs. Like, nothing, don't worry about it. I got it. It's no big deal.
Fine.
Don't worry about it. And I feel awful lying to Rex about it.
Well, don't feel awful for too long because he'll find out.
Yeah, that's true.
Real quick, there's also a moment between Jeff and Edie where Jeff is telling her a joke that's over 2,000 years old about a Solarian and a Krogan walk up a hill and they see a huge army in front of them. The Solarian is frightened and says, "What are we going to do?" And the Krogan says, like, "You're scared. I gotta walk back by myself," insinuating that the Solarian is going to die.
Yes.
So Edie kills it just like I did.
Right.
I did that on purpose. And Edie points out, like, hey, that joke's fucked up because it relies on two different stereotypes that are actually harmful to both the Krogan and the Solarians. And it does nothing to foster, like, understanding or peace between them. And Joker comes back by saying, comedy isn't about being nice. Sometimes it's a way to air out the ugly things people think. And while I think that is a very good point, I think there is a difference between airing out the ugly things that people think and letting people think that it's okay to think that.
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, I think it's the difference between punching up and punching down, right?
Yeah.
Like
Totally.
making fun of, and even like the way certain comedians of certain nationalities make fun of their own quirks or things that they experienced growing up. When you put a personal spin on something that can be conceived as a stereotype, if you're owning it to make fun of it and to punch up at the people who would make those kinds of insensitive jokes, I think it works better. But it's a hard line to walk. I mean, I've seen lots of comedians succeed and others fail trying to do that because also humor is very personal. I don't it's very personal to your own experience, and you can't predict that for everybody. It's hard to get that across to everyone. There are some universalities, but I think the reality is comedy can be very personal, and so it's hard to predict that.
Yeah. I just wanted to talk about that. And then we are back on Tuchanka, and we find out the bomb was planted by Turians.
Yes. Shepard questions why they let Cerberus get control of this bomb. How did they lose control of it? And that's when Lieutenant Victus goes, "Oh, about that. See, like, it's our bomb. It's been here for a very long time, and they found it and are bad." And I'm just like, excuse me?
Shock! Gasp! I am so surprised.
Garrus's reaction is like, huh, yeah, that was probably a good idea to put that there.
He's just
I feel like
not
his reaction
surprised.
was more like, no, I get it.
Yeah.
I don't approve, but I get it. Like, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Smart at the time. Not so smart now.
No. And James's reaction is just pretty big. It's just like, I'm sorry, you did what? Like, very kind of chest pounding. Like, I can't believe you did that. Which is my Shepard's reaction, too. Like, I was just angry and upset about it.
Rex is gonna be real mad.
And that was my thought as Shepard, like kind of in that moment because I streamed this mission during Extra Life when I was doing Extra Life. And that was my thought. I was like, oh shit, Rex is going to be so mad. Like I had that thought to myself because, I mean, Rex is pretty scary when he's in a good mood. So
The combat in this part of the mission, also, meh. Nothing to write home about. It's just Cerberus soldiers. They're boring. Like, I'm tired of all of you.
Yeah, a lot of hallways and rubble.
yeah, it's kind of standard fare of what we've seen up until this point. And like if you're someone who's importing your Mass Effect 2 save, you have so many points already. Although something I learned, this is related to combat. I didn't know that you could have more than one specialty power based on achievements or based on previous playthrough. Because in the last game, you could only pick one additional power to your set of powers. In Mass Effect 3, you can have multiple.
I have to look into that because I'm not sure if I do. I have Slam.
And I assumed like in the second game you could only have one, but you cannot. And I think the reason for that is because they give you such a huge swath of points for loading a pre-save that they want to give you somewhere to put points as you go, which was interesting. And so I grabbed a couple extra things, but like I just never realized that.
I'm gonna have to look into that. I was really frustrated going through this because everyone kept rushing me and saying, like, come on, Shepard. I'm like, I'm going. I am on my way. I literally did not stop. Why are you yelling at me?
Yeah, it's one of those missions where they're forcing the urgency a little bit. I mean, it is a bomb, so I get it.
Yeah.
But still.
When we get there, Tarkin can't separate the bomb from the trigger electronically, so he has to go do it physically. And Shepard has to cover his back. And this is a moment where he makes a decision on his own. There really aren't a lot of Shepard decisions in these two missions.
Yeah.
And Tarkin decides that he's going to sacrifice his life for victory at any cost.
Yeah.
And he dies.
Yeah, he gets one of the triggers off, and then he realizes the other trigger, like the only way he can get it to completely disconnect is to climb out into the middle of this thing and dismantle it himself. And so he does that and just accepts it. There is not really any hesitation here.
No.
And so while he was not necessarily always confident with his squad, his own resolution in believing what was the right thing to do here didn't take much convincing. He just knew it and did it. And it's tragic. And like the scale of this bomb too, like we've diffused bombs in this game before, and they're usually these like duffel bag size things, but this is like a giant planet destroying bomb. And it's just like the scale of the whole thing as it's destroyed, another cinematic moment, like is just kind of awe-inspiring. And it's just genuinely a heartbreaking moment for a character you don't even really know that well, but you kind of got to know pretty quickly just based on his actions.
I gotta say, victory at any cost are some baller ass last words.
Yeah.
Yes.
Very Turian of him. Very Spartan of him. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I will say, I feel like rather than the bomb and Tarkin being like the source of the actual drama in this scene, we sort of touched on this earlier. I think dreading what's coming next was where I felt the most tense. Like once I realized, Tarkin's about to run up there, he's about to sacrifice himself, he's going to die, my immediate next thought was, oh no, I have to go tell his dad. And then, oh no,
Yep.
I have to go tell Rex about this bomb. Like, I'm just dreading what's coming next on the Normandy. And I think a lot of the source of the drama and the storytelling here comes from this, like, yeah, you don't really know the younger Lieutenant Victus all that well, and maybe his death isn't as impactful to you, but you do know these two other characters, and Rex maybe is one of your, at least for me, was one of my favorite characters, and just dreading this interaction I knew was coming was a big part of this mission for me.
Yeah, totally. I can see that for sure. And I think also part of it is like Shepard has kind of had to fight both of them. And also the idea that Shepard had no control. Like the last mission with the Krogan team, the Krogan scout team, like a lot of shit went down, but it mostly was it didn't affect anyone else except Rex, and you fixed it, and then Rex was fine. Although people question your Arachnite choices, more or less, you fix it and it's fine. Like no one else is really affected. However, General Primarch Victus's mission affects everyone, just about, especially the focal point of this point in the story, which is helping Tachanka. This is the antithesis of that. This is not helping Tachanka at all.
After Tarkin gives his life, on our way back, Shepard asks Garrus what he thinks of everything. And Garrus says, "Sacrifice in war is expected. He did us proud, but we're a hard bunch to please."
Yeah. That's I think speaking to like the expectations of how the Primarch might take this, like more
how
stoically.
the Turian people will take it, really.
Right.
Not specific to the Primarch.
Garrus does add to that, and he says, whatever he was before this, he'll be remembered for this.
Yeah.
So maybe this is Victus's defining moment, regardless of how rough of a career he potentially had beforehand and how much nepotism was involved from Daddy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Poor Tarkin. Tarkin deserved better.
He did. But yeah, so we go back to the Normandy, and immediately as soon as we arrive, sparks are flying already. People are yelling.
Do you remember in 2 when, like, Miranda and Jack almost tore each other apart, and then Tally and Legion almost tore each other apart?
Yep.
Oh boy, those were the days, right?
Yeah, same kind of mood here.
The writing here was spectacular. Like Primarch Victus, Garrus, both of them were just taking shots at each other. And I found myself ping-ponging back and forth. Yeah, it's like these two guys are just taking shots at each other. And one of my favorite lines in this scene is Primarch Victus is trying to defend himself. And he says, the decision was made 100 years ago. Like, why are you mad at me? I didn't put this bomb there. And he says, so much has changed. And at that point, I was like, yeah, I mean, like, Rex, calm down. Like, this was a long time ago. No reason to get, like, feisty against Primarch. And then Rex hits him back with, things haven't changed enough to tell us about the bomb, you coward. And I was like, oh, shit. You're so right,
Snap.
Rex. Like, if we're working on foreign relations, if we're trying to patch up this Krogan and Turian relationship, you would think telling us about a giant planet-ending bomb you planted on our planet like 100 years ago would be a pretty obvious first step to patching up that relationship.
Yeah.
For sure.
And the thing is, Victus is talking about, like, oh, that was generations ago, it was centuries ago. Do you know how long a Krogan lives?
Yeah.
Krogan live up to 1,000 years. This is not that long to them, buddy.
Yeah. This was yesterday to them. Especially considering everything they've been living through. And like even while they're fighting, like when Rex digs in and tries to get even more hurtful, insulting the entire integrity of the Turian, like my Shepard goes, look, wait, his son did die trying to save your people.
Yeah,
so
I
like,
said that too.
Like, let's take a minute here. And my Shepard mostly played, and I think the last choice I took was like, both of you stop. Like, this is not the point. This is not the thing. We have to move forward.
Yeah, I said we need to move on because the other thing was you're both wrong. And it was like, Rex isn't wrong, though. And I refuse to say that.
Correct. Yeah.
Rex is right.
Yeah. And like, I get the Primarch's point of view as far as like, I didn't do this, but it's also very, shall we say American at this point?
Yeah.
To like say, oh, well, I didn't do it. People back then did it. Like when talking about slavery, for example, it's like, no, you didn't do it, but people you descended from did. And it's your responsibility now because they did it. And you're not absolved of a mistake someone else made in the past that's still affecting people in the present, simply.
Yeah, you have to do the work to make the world a better place.
Regardless of who caused the problem. Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Or at least tell me about the bomb, Victus.
Yes, at minimum.
You could have told me an hour ago. Why is it coming out? Like, why did your son tell me over FaceTime while I'm like driving down to meet him to turn this bomb off? Like, That was the part that got me, was like,
Yeah, 100%.
maybe the Turian race is justified in placing that bomb. And Shepard even says at one point, Rex, your people would have done the same thing in the opposite situation.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah,
Word.
maybe 100 years ago, the situation was different. The universe was different. The relationship was different. Maybe it could be argued that the Turians were justified in placing that bomb in the first place. But it just simply cannot be argued at this point that Victus is justified in hiding it. There's no reason to do that anymore.
Yeah, I completely agree. The conversation that we have at the end is your son had to die to fix this. And, like, man, I'm sad that your son is dead, but if you had told me about this when you first brought it up, maybe we could have saved him. Yeah. Maybe I could have been prepared, and I could have had a way to get rid of this bomb without him dying.
Yeah. No, of course. I mean, first of all, we have a mobile unit, like big galaxy braining here. We have a robot that houses the physical manifestation of our AI. That body, while important, is not necessary if it could save your son's life. And I'm sure Edie would happily do that to protect someone. Like, that's just...
She'd have been sad, but she'd have gotten over it.
Yeah. Like, that's just galaxy braining in 5 minutes. I'm sure with hours of time, Shepard could have come up with something that even wouldn't require that. There is absolutely no reason. This is the kind of lying nonsense that happens with politicians, which is being showcased here. It's the same thing with when talking about this with the Dolatross and everything else. Like, it's showcasing the flaws with governments and with and I'm not trying to be an anarchist, but it's like it's showing the flaws in thinking I'm doing the right thing for everyone when maybe you're not, and that diplomacy and conversation and reading people in can only help, not hurt. But Garrus alluded to this.
And the flaws I would also argue that Primarch Victus, being so relatively new to his position, right? This leadership role has been thrust upon him, and he's still sort of learning it. And I think he's falling back on this very Turian militaristic tradition of being rigid and following the rules and following the chain of command. And if something is classified, then it is capital C classified. You don't tell anyone about it. Not even the Commander Shepard. And, Victus obviously grows in this 2-part quest, right? At the end, he admits to Shepard, I'm sorry, it was a mistake not to trust you. I know that now.
Yeah.
And he obviously grows, but I think being such a young Primarch and all he has is just the instinctive training that's been bred into him, which is institutional. He wasn't taught to be creative or think outside the box. He was taught to just follow the military code.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. And Garrus alludes to this in what MJ brought up earlier, that they're hard people to please. And I think that comes from the stoicism that there is expected of them, that they are very militaristic and that they are very by the book. And I think you're absolutely right, both of you, that that's why he thought the way he did. Even though he's at the top of the food chain now, he still keeps thinking about the Turian people as in, I can't break the rules because there's an expectation of us. And it blows up in his face here.
Phrasing.
Sorry.
No, you feel bad. Oh, well. That was it for my notes on the mission. Does anybody want to talk about anything else that we maybe glossed over or missed?
No, I don't think so. I think this is another mission where the combat doesn't matter that much, but it doesn't impede the mission. And the mission is quick because it's getting to the point. I think the way even though it's 2 parts, the way this mission is structured is to give you the sense of urgency that is required when dealing with a bomb, that I imagine a bomb-related situation would be like, though I've never been in one personally. And I think it emulates that really well, even though it is relatively short.
Yeah.
Alrighty. Well, that was the Turian platoon and the Tachanka bomb and, Rex and Victus getting into a spat. And from here on out, we know what's next if you've played this game before. But more about that in a minute. First, I think it's time we dive into the fandom corner.
Fandom Corner. One day we'll have a theme song.
No, we won't.
And it'll be about Fandom Corner.
Never. I don't want it because I have to do more editing. No, thank you.
I'm gonna ask Brett for one.
So I was sent a video that had my name written all over it by a friend of the show, Insane Ian, who's a musician, a comedy musician who I am friends with. Brental Floss. Brent Black, yes.
I'd like to interrupt you for 2 seconds. It was sent to us 3 times collectively.
I'm not surprised. People wouldn't be doing their jobs if they didn't assume a Mass Effect thing was something that we had to see collectively. I feel like it's required.
Anyway, please continue.
But I first saw it when it was sent to me by Insane Ian on Twitter. The tweet said, "Good morning to everyone, but specifically DJ Stormageddon." And it is Brental Floss' new parody song called The Mass Effect Rag. It's an original Mass Effect 1 parody song about Mass Effect, the game, Mass Effect, the world, and Mass Effect, the meta, the bugs, the issues. There are lines about the elevator conversations. There's lines about the bugs. There's lines about the characters. And it's by Brental Floss. You might know Brental Floss most specifically for doing What If Blank had lyrics and creating lyrics over the instrumental songs of our favorite video games. He's a comedy musician who's been working a long time. And it's hilarious and silly and ridiculous. And I had no idea that Brental Floss was a Mass Effect fan. So, hey, Brental Floss, come on the show.
The only thing that I know about Brental Floss is that he is friends with Travis McElroy. And they had a podcast together at one point. Also, my favorite lines were about the Mako.
Yes.
They were very good.
They were very good. It's on YouTube. I'm sure it's on his Spotify as well, but it's on YouTube with a video that he edited to go along with the commentary. It's very good. It's very old-timey rag.
I feel like the video is very important to enjoying the song.
I would agree as well. And it's just goofy. And it was in honor of the Legendary Edition being announced. It says even in the notes. And my favorite thing, which I posted a screenshot in our notes, is that the pinned comment on the video is from our very own Mark Meir that says, "Great work, Brental Floss. This is my new favorite Mass Effect parody song on the Citadel." And then in parentheses, "I should go." Because it's not just a running gag on this show. Everybody knows it. Which was great. I adore Mark Meir. He, of course, did a cameo saying that we're his favorite podcast on the Citadel, which is only half true because he said the same thing about Normandy FM, but we'll still take it.
It just proves that he can be bought.
It's true. Mark, please come on the show. Anyway, but no, it's always fun to see these interactions. Mark is really great, and I love seeing his online interactions. And this song is great. If you're a Mass Effect fan and you like comedy music, I think this is an easy win for you. I definitely recommend checking it out. Again, it's the Mass Effect Rag by Brental Floss.
Mass Effect Rag.
Yeah. It's old-timey piano
like
stuff.
that.
Yeah. The Mass Effect Rag.
Yeah.
Better.
Okay, yeah.
Good.
You did good.
Thanks.
I have one thing that I want to talk about before we do the outro, and it is Mass Effect related. The BioWare store has been putting out new stuff, which is pretty cool. My husband actually bought the Mass Effect Legendary lunchbox today.
Nice.
I sent it to him because I was like, look how cute this is. And John was like, purchased.
I'm sorry. Was that not what I was supposed to do?
Well, when it gets here, he and I have to fight over who gets the Omniblade pin.
There's an Omniblade pin.
There's an Omniblade pin. There's a Normandy patch that says, I think, Remember the Fallen.
Nice.
There's decals. There's lithographs. It comes in a metal lunchbox with a tumbler. So I don't know what we're gonna do with the lunchbox, but we're gonna have it.
Amazing.
So that's
awesome.
cute. I'm also very disappointed in you, BioWare store, because you have a holiday sweater design, but it's on a long sleeve t-shirt.
Yeah, where's my knit sweater, BioWare?
Get your shit together.
I should take a moment to shout out before we wrap up the show also. N7 Day has not passed that long ago as of when this is aired, about a week or two ago. Jennifer Hale on her YouTube page released a Q&A video that's, I think, almost 2 hours long with a ton of the cast, including the original Morden Solis. And it's phenomenal. It made me cry several times. The voice actress, whose name I'm blanking on now, who plays Samantha Trainer, talks about how much the relationship between Trainer and Femshep means to her as someone who has two moms and grew up with two moms, and like gets really emotional, which of course made me emotional.
Is she also adorable?
She is.
I feel like she's adorable.
She is adorable, and apparently the voice of the female Inquisitor in Inquisition, which I'd never realized.
Oh yeah,
because I've never played it. Because I've never played a female Inquisitor yet.
The second you said it, I heard her voice in my head and was like, "Yes, you are correct."
So go check that out. It's a blast. The tail end is just them reading lines, and like halfway through chat during the live stream of it, begged and pleaded the voice actor of Morden to do a live version of I Am a Scientist Solarian, which he does. Just go check it out. It's on Jennifer Hale's YouTube. It's the best 2 hours you'll spend with anything Mass Effect related. So yeah, I wanted to make sure I shouted that out. But moving on to wrap up the show, our next episode will be Priority Tuchanka, the most popular mission on the Citadel, and it will be with our pod sibling, Case Aiken.
The bane of all of our other guests.
Apparently.
Curse you.
So if you don't know Case is another podcaster on Certain POV. He's been a guest on this show before, and has affinity for Tali and the Krogan, and Solarians, actually, having played a Solarian in our one-shot that we did at the end of last season. So definitely come back for that. Abu, thank you so much for coming back to the show. It's been so great to have you on. Please tell folks where they can find you on the internet and all the stuff that you are working on.
Of course, yeah. If you could just wait a minute, though. I'm buying this Morden Solis Collector's Edition plushie.
I'm surprised that's not sold out.
Yeah, right?
Yeah, no, I'm just like scrolling through the Bioware store now. I'm going to end up spending some money.
Cool stuff.
But yeah, I talked a little bit about Lore Party at the top of this show, but if you want to learn more about us, go to loreparty.com. That's LOREPARTY.com. Like I said, we have 4 shows: our flagship show, Lore Party, our companion show, Minigame. Both of those are focused on video game lore, and we go deep on the universes and characters and themes of our favorite video games. And then, Matt, like you said earlier, we have our Witcher-focused show. This is the perfect companion if you're watching the Netflix series. We covered all of Season 1, so if you're about to binge the Netflix show, make sure to listen to our podcast as well. It's called Winds Howling. And then finally, the Dune podcast that I talked about at the top of the show, Gom Jabbar. That one comes out every other week, every other Friday. Leo and I get geeky about Dune, and if you want to learn more about it, if you're about to read the books for the first time, or if you've been reading them for decades, we're the show for you. So all of that, again, is on loreparty.com, and all of those shows you can find on any podcast platform.
That's awesome. Also, I want to shout out really quick Lore Party for coming through during Extra Life. For those who don't know, Jeff Moonen, Rachel Quirky-Shank, and myself all raised money for Extra Life this year. I raised alone over $1,000, and then the whole team raised, I think, over $1,600.
That's amazing.
Which was awesome. But also, when we did our Among Us / Jackbox game night, the night of the event, Lore Party turned out in numbers to hang out with us, Lawrence and Caleb and Conrad, and even more people who I'm sure I'm forgetting. So thank you, Lore Party, for doing that. I love collaborating with you all, and you really showed up for that, and it was a blast. So thank you.
Of course, yeah. I'm bummed out I didn't get to kill some people in a ship. But I'm glad the other guys showed up and did plenty of killing for me, I'm sure.
They did. I died a lot. It's fine.
All right. If you like what you heard here, follow us on social media. We're at ReignitePod on Twitter, Tumblr, and Instagram, facebook.com/reignitepod, or you can send us an email at reignitepod@gmail.com. Don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe on your favorite podcatcher. It helps us get seen so other people can find us.
We're also members of the Certain POV Podcast Network. You can visit certainpov.com to find more nerdy podcasts, each with a unique point of view. You can also find a permanent invite link to our Discord server, so you can join in the conversation about Mass Effect, things related to Mass Effect, things people are keeping from me to not spoil me that have to do with Mass Effect, as well as tons of other stuff. It's a blast hanging out with our community. We have the best listeners in the world. I'm not biased at all. So yeah, definitely go check all that out.
The Andromeda thread is my favorite thing on our Discord.
Yeah.
Aside from my other podcast, Circle of Friendship, and the Rob Thomas No Not That One Robcast, I am also on the cast of Archives of the Dragon, where we stream Changeling the Dreaming. You can catch me playing a punk rock selkie every Friday over at twitch.tv/Archives of the Dragon. And I am actually starting a new limited run podcast with the help of my wonderful husband, John Lestrange. We are calling it The Certain Point of Yule, where we watch the Christmas movie so you don't have to.
Thank God. Not that I was going to watch them anyway, but thank God. I still want to hear you talk about them.
Yeah.
When does that launch? Do you have a launch date for that yet?
Not yet.
Okay.
Case and I are figuring out hosting because Case said that he wanted to do it, but then I don't know. We haven't figured it out yet. Soon.
Follow iHeart Librarians on Twitter, and you can find out more there.
Yep.
As for me, I'm, of course, on Screen Snark, Fun and Games, and as well as my off-network podcast, Autographs and Shut Up Evan. By the way, if Abu sounds familiar besides this show, you may have heard him doing our Night in the Woods episode of Side Quests on Fun and Games, an episode that inspired me to play the game, which I have now played and absolutely love.
Yes.
I got nightmares from it.
Yeah, I mean, that's legit, too.
Yeah.
And then Leo, who's on Gom Jabbar with him, did our Shadow of the Colossus episode. So those voices might be familiar to you from that. That said, I also want to mention quickly that I'm streaming again pretty frequently, twitch.tv/DJ_Stormageddon. I just wrapped up Dragon Age Inquisition's main story. I want to say a phrase, but I don't want to spoil the game for anyone, so I won't. I will say it off air. But that said, I did download the DLC, The Trespasser, already, and so I'm going to be playing that on stream next, which is the main story follow-up to the Dragon Age Inquisition storyline. So you can, again, check that out at twitch.tv/DJ_Stormageddon.
I'm very excited. You have to text me when you're starting Trespasser.
I will let you know. I might stream some of it this Sunday.
Okay. I don't think I have plans that day, so I will just sit and watch you stream.
Okay.
We would like to thank Red Spinks for our It's Okay to Be a Marshmallow t-shirt on Redbubble, featuring our favorite marshmallow, Caden Alenko. You can find more of their work at Chaos Does Art on Instagram. We'd also like to thank Case Aiken for developing more amazing shirt designs that you can find through certainpov.com or on Teespring. Thank you to David Boyle for designing our logo, which you can also get on a shirt through Redbubble. And finally, thank you to Dan Bull for letting us use the Mass Effect rap for our theme music. I'm MJ.
And I'm Matt A.K. Stormageddon.
And I'm Abu Zafar. We should go.
You're listening to Reignite. I'm Commander Shepard, and this is my favorite podcast on the Citadel.
Hey everyone, I'm Abu.
And I'm Leo.
And we're here to tell you about Gom Jabbar, our brand new podcast all about Dune.
Gom Jabbar is your guide to Frank Herbert's massive sci-fi universe. We'll be exploring the themes, philosophies, and characters found in everything from Frank's iconic novels to the adaptations on film and TV.
And here's the thing. We do spoiler-filled deep dives as well as introductory non-spoiler episodes, so there's something for everyone.
You know, look, Dune is complicated. There are crazy words like Mentats, like Tleilaxu, and of course, Gom Jabbar.
Our goal is to help you understand these words and many more that we can't pronounce.
It's a theme. So find Gom Jabbar on your favorite podcast platform. We can't wait to share our love of the Dune universe, and we'll see you on the Golden Path.
Do you wake up every morning, roll over, and check your favorite social media feed, only finding that you wish you had never looked at all? Well, Inklings is here to lift those doldrums during the month of November. Inklings is a fictional short story podcast that will run daily on weekdays during the month of November from Dreamer Productions, the Dole Up in Dreams podcast, and Isolation Cast, Voices from Quarantine. Let your mind run to its deepest desires in the isolation of imagination. The stories will run 2 to 10 minutes, so take a break for yourself and enjoy Inklings, your daily short story indulgence. You can find Inkling by liking and subscribing the Dole Up in Dreams podcast, as well as Isolation Cast Voices from Quarantine, wherever you find your favorite podcasts.
CPOV. CertainPOV.com.